this calf was in fact alive. It was something which was somehow a god or whatever that they would worship. And of course for us, we understand that what has taken place here is that the jinn has entered into that body, the calf, the statue, and communicated in this way to fool people. And we've had recent occurrences of this in 1997, all over the world. The Hindu god Ganesh began to drink milk. People had been practicing their pujas, their acts of worship to this god, this elephant head god, Ganesh, in India and in wherever their temples are around the world for many, many years. And there was no special phenomena taking place. They would pour milk over it, etc. But on one particular day in the year 1997, they found that the milk was going into the mouth of the idol in India, as well as wherever the temples were. In London it happened, also in the Emirates where I was. They found they were pouring milk by the mouth of the idol, and that milk was going in. Now scientists tried to give explanation for it, that it was by capillary action and all kinds of other explanations, but the reality that these explanations really didn't hold water. The point is that at that particular instant, in different locations around the world, the jinn occupied these statues, started to imbibe this milk, giving the Hindus the impression that their god was alive, real. This was a miracle for them, convincing them of the authenticity of their belief. We can also have partial possessions happening, as in the case of Al-Hallaj. Al-Hallaj was a heretic, from a number of centuries ago, who has been elevated by some elements as being a saint. He was an individual who claimed that he was Allah, that there was no distinction between Allah and himself. And when he was taken before a tribunal and asked to recant his belief, he stood up and opened up his cloak and said, "There is nothing inside of this cloak except Allah." His favorite statement was, "Ana al-Haq." I am the embodiment of truth. And of course Allah describes himself, wa huwa al-Haq, that Allah is al-Haq. He says, "Ana al-Haq." He's saying Allah and I are one. So when he refused to recant this belief, he was taken and executed. His head was cut off. Now, according to the fables of those who have elevated him to this status of sainthood, they claim that when his head was cut off, as it fell and it rolled, it kept saying, "Ana al-Haq, Ana al-Haq, Ana al-Haq," right? And for them, this was confirmation that in fact, yes, this individual, this deranged individual, was in fact a saint speaking the truth. But the reality is, of course, is that if in fact this took place, we can understand that it would have taken place by way of the jinn speaking out through this individual's head, because surely that person being dead was not going to communicate with any of the living. The third way in which possession the jinn may affect our world is that of what we call demonic visions. That is, where the jinn may take forms which appear before people. This is common amongst Christians. You have many cases where they have seen the Christ child, Mary, appears before them, these type of things. We also have visions which are held by individuals, for example, who believe, again, this belief in sainthood and all this type of thing, where they have beliefs that certain individuals who they will designate as Sheikh so-and-so, as in the case of Sheikh Nazim and his followers, they claim that he can be in more than 7 places at the same time, and that his Sheikh was able to be in more than 14 different places at the same time. So what would happen is that he would be at home in Cyprus, and then some of his followers were saying, "But we saw him in Germany." He likes to go to Germany. Or they say, "We also saw him at the same time, the same day in Mecca performing Umrah." So this is evidence that this man is, somehow some kind of super spirit individual who's so close to Allah that he deserves, submission to. And so people submit themselves to him. in ways which are definitely against the teachings of Islam. However, this phenomena, has been identified by the scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah among them, to be well known. In the past, this same type of thing occurred. In fact, Ibn Taymiyyah even mentioned that some people had come to him and told him that whilst they were in the process of doing Hajj, one of them had hurt himself, and he called out on Ibn Taymiyyah for his help. He called out to him, "Oh Ibn Taymiyyah, help me," at the time. And he said when he called out, he saw Ibn Taymiyyah appear before him. And when he related this back to Ibn Taymiyyah informed him that this was not him. This was a jinni, appearing, confirming his shirk. Because for him to call out to Ibn Taymiyyah for help, Ibn Taymiyyah is, thousands of miles away. He is there in Mecca calling out to him for help. This is shirk. To call on anyone other than Allah is shirk. So those people who are involved in various acts of shirk, you will find among them visions common to confirm their states of disbelief. There's also a case which I came across in Sri Lanka back in 1992, in which a young boy, he was some 2.5 years old. He was born in a Muslim family. His name was Izzan, Muhammad Izzan. He was born in a Muslim family. And all of a sudden, he had this sort of illness. He was in hospital, briefly. He came out, he hadn't spoken. After this illness, he began to speak. And he began to speak in the language which was the language of the Hindus. He began to speak in the language, the Tamil language, right? Whereas his family were speaking Sinhalese, right? And he started to ask to go to a temple. And they took him to this temple. His family took him to the temple, and he started to do the rites of worship before the idols, and he started to sing the hymns of the Hindus, their chants and their worship, etc. It was something really, quite amazing. And this was documented by doctors, etc. They documented this. Was very real. It was in the newspapers, front page news, and it was quite shocking. In fact, it reached a stage where people were making pilgrimage from India, from southern India, Tamil Nadu, making pilgrimage there to Sri Lanka to come to this boy. They were bringing gifts, and they were asking him, their future. And even Muslims, unfortunately, got caught up in this. Many Muslims were coming to this individual and asking him to tell them their future and all this kind of things, And fortunately, one of the brothers there, brother by the name of Jazid Arif, he had read, because I had been to Sri Lanka before and given lectures there, and he had read a book which I had written called The Fundamentals of Tawheed. And in it, I explained about this phenomena, the phenomena of what appeared to be reincarnation, right? Because this boy, he was claiming that he was someone else. He gave a name, he gave a place where he died. When they went there, they found that yes, there was a boy by this name who had been killed in an accident, and he was a Hindu boy. And here he was now claiming that this was himself, and that his parents were so and so and so on. These were the names of the parents, etc. So it appeared to be a case of reincarnation. This is a belief shared by both the Hindus and the Buddhists. And then this case became so popular in Sri Lanka that even the president, Premadasa, had made statements about it, about this is showing that we're all from the same origin, whether you're Muslim or whether you're Hindu or you're Buddhist, we're all reincarnated. We could have been Hindus in our previous lives or whatever, So it was, for him, he used it as a means of what he felt to be uniting the people. And he even placed guards around the home of this family, to make sure nobody disturbed this process. In any case, as I mentioned, Jazid Arif had read my book, The Fundamentals of Tawheed, in which I described this case happening in India before, cases of reincarnation, and explained how it was possible for the jinn to implant ideas in the minds of children. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said dreams are of 3 types. There are dreams which are from Allah, good dreams, true dreams. Dreams which are from the ramblings of ourselves. We read something, we see something, and all of a sudden we see it back in our dreams.